Welcome back to the Product Operations Summit. Before we get going with the next session, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors for helping us bring this event to your screens. And don't forget, you can access even more content from exclusive articles and interviews to all past and future events on demand, as well as templates and frameworks by becoming a PLA member. Head on over to productledalliance.com for more info. Enjoy the next session. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Product Operations Summit. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our next speaker from one of our headline partners. It's Dragonboat. We've got Becky Flint, who is the CEO and founder. Becky has a fantastic history of launching and scaling product ops within lots of organizations, and I'm sure she's going to share some of those experiences with us now in her presentation. Good product ops, bad product ops. So Becky, welcome to the virtual stage, and without further ado, take it away.
Thank you so much, Heather. I am going to share my screen. Can everyone see it? All right, assume everyone can see it. I'm going to get started. Good product ops, bad product ops. Why is this topic important? Because product ops is the most leveraged role in a product organization. And as Heather shared earlier, I have been lucky enough in my career, have gone through many amazing companies, joined them early, as they grow from pre-unicorn into unicorn stage, and building, scaling product ops and portfolio management, and really leading to, I started the Dragonboat as the purpose-built end-to-end platform for outcome-driven product ops and product organizations. So without further ado, let's take a look at good product ops and bad product ops. Now, in the early 90s, Ben Horowitz, who is today the co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz Venture. In the earlier days, he was a product manager at some of the iconic product companies, Silicon Graphics, Netscape, and AOL, and so on. At that time, product management was just start to become a thing, and he wrote now famous Good Product Manager, Bad Product Manager essay, which has started a really broad conversation on what good product management practice is. Now, believe it or not, product ops has been around almost as long as the product management. And personally, I've been involved in this role with or without the title of product ops for almost 20 years. So gathered from my own personal experience, working with the teams and coaching, some of them exchanging ideas, and some of the horror stories from the product ops community, I put together a good product ops, bad product ops essay here to start a conversation as the role of the product ops become more of a mainstream practice today. So we know product managers are highly leveraged function. They work cross-functionally, and their work directly affects the success or failure of a product-centric company. Now, product ops, by virtue of working with and orchestrating the operations of the product management, that by nature is even more leveraged, which means small change, big impact. So what differentiates a good product ops practice versus not so good or even a bad one? We can look at it in 6 angles. Who's our customer? What are our strategy and focus in winning these customers or deliver value to drive success? What are our approaches to realize our strategy? What are process leading to success? What should we think about tools? And how will we grow from here? So the first part of good product ops is to understand that our customers are more than one customers. We actually have many segments of our customers. Some of them, a big part of them, are product managers. Additionally, we have customers that are their customers. So thinking about as if we were running a B2B2C product, your direct customers are also has their customers. So that become all of our customers and think about the direct and indirect customers, all our customers, and make sure the customers' success is the ultimate success of customers. Oh, wow, that's a lot of customers in one sentence. But thinking about back is that product managers are the immediate customer of product ops because we work with them day in and day out. There are also product leadership teams. They're also the customers of product ops, right? What about the stakeholders and the people product manager work with every day? The engineers, the customer success, the marketing, the sales. They also interact with the product organization and the product managers and ultimately affect how the outcome will be delivered. So they are also the customers of product ops. Where on the other hand, a bad product ops practice is to define the roles very narrowly and think about product manager as their only customer. And this creates a big opportunity loss, right? In what a good product ops could create and enable. So the way we think about it should really be product ops customer is the product managers and the entire product organization. Similar to a great sales ops, their focus is on driving revenue and growth and ultimately the success of the sales organization. Good product ops ensure the success of product managers and the success of the product organization as a whole, which is driving customer and the business outcomes. Now, how we go to achieve what we need to achieve to help our customer be successful? Bad product ops practice misses the big picture and overly simplify the factor needed to run a successful product organization. And they pick something that are no risk, that is simple enough to understand, such as the customer focused, the customer obsessed, and they start kind of taking marching order and try to work with everyone and try to integrate Salesforce data and Zendesk data and get tons of threads going on. And they kind of just try to dig in and get analytics and really losing the big picture of what we're trying to accomplish. So one of the product ops I came across in my career, he started as a really customer-focused mindset, which is a good starting point. But he took the practice into the extreme. He literally walked around in the office with a virtual stick and pushing product managers to process the customer insights and getting customer requests and even create those metrics and dashboards to say how many insights created, how many of them processed, and how much are delivered as sort of a badge of success for their product team. One element of it, definitely not all of that. And thinking back, it's not that different from earlier days where engineering outcomes was measured by lines of code, right? Good product ops, on the other hand, truly understand that product organization is multifaceted. It has many different factors that were driving the success. The good product ops really have to orchestrate how decisions are made, how data are gathered, how do we adjust the evolving needs of the customer, of the company's customer, of the business. And they can triage the needs of the current and the future market, drive near-term and long-term results, and orchestrate and balance these needs as a part of an organization, and the company evolves and navigates through the world they're operating in. So how are you going about to achieve and deliver the strategy we set out to do? Bad product ops practice is to be served on the ground level, where good product operation practice is to really enable and connecting and orchestrating across the team at the ground level connecting top and down and between the leadership team, the vision and the operation, the vision and strategy and the operation, as well as across the function. So I worked with a very diligent product ops person in her earlier career. She's super excellent, detail-oriented. She creates templates, setting up meetings, to triage bugs, to gather user feedback. But she misses the opportunity to really initiate and orchestrate critical strategic discussions and facilitate alignment that you can see and spot across product teams and their stakeholders. And it was very confusing to the team on why she's in the room. What was she doing? What's the value add? Product operations has the operations in the title, but it's a strategic role. Product operations is not a team secretary. Now, someone called product operations as a process people. And there are some merit to it. And especially if you do process badly. In fact, you really think about it, bad product ops practices, they're like a process police. They build something, it could be rigid, it could be big, and then they put it in carving stone and forget about why it was in the first place. What is the job to be done for that process? Now, good product ops, it is good product ops run process as a product. They would evaluate the needs, understand the pain points, iterate the product, evolving the needs so that there's no process that the systems and functions and team work well, just like APIs, so that it's orchestrated, it's evolving, not hard-coded and tech-dead. So we all know we need tools, the right tool for the right job, and the right job deliver the right outcome. Bad product ops, they're like tools themselves. They let their team to choose whatever they want to use, however they want to use it, and the data is all over the place. It doesn't really stitch together. So they become the tools themselves, trying to stitch everything together, create those, fancy PowerPoints and spreadsheets and data warehouses. Product ops to do that. So don't treat your job as a tool. Find the right tool, focus on the strategic part of the job and operating the strategy so that your team has a place to go to, your stakeholder has a place to go to, your customers knows how we make decision, the source of truth, and what could impact our business as a whole. So last but not least is to think about where do we go from here? We find our customer, we figure out a strategy, make them successful. We understanding the roles, how do we play their roles and give them the tools, and now everything is set in place, right? What do we do next? A good product ops really trying to do is to manage themselves out of the job so that they become a force multipliers, not linearly say 5 product manager, 1 product ops, 10 you get 2. That is missing the point. So in short, product ops, there is a good product ops practice. There's not so good product ops practice. The goal is to think about product ops is a strategic role, leading and orchestrating the product organization to achieve the best outcome, looking at these 6 angles and look at how our team's performing, how we could get better, because ultimately, the product ops are driving decision across the product, driving decision across the company. And this is a great quote from Melissa Perry, amazing author and a product expert, as well as the board advisor of Dragonboat. So with that, I'm concluding the conversation, and I'd love to hear you all about questions.
Presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have time for questions, so throw them into the chat. I see a couple have come in already. Lavanya would like to know, what are some tools used by the POMs in your experience to bring that connectedness to the product portfolios?
Yeah, so traditionally, I grew up in the earlier companies like PayPal. we have to use this really expensive, rigid tools like Clarity. It pays millions of dollars to run it. And since Agile, since the product became more of a driving force of the company, there wasn't really any good tool. And that's really what leading to the start of the Dragon Boat, which is a connected tool as the end-to-end for product portfolio management, integrated engineering tools, integrated with other tools your product team use.
Nice. We've got one here from John. What are the key KPIs you're using to measure how effective your product ops team is?
Great question. A few things I want to call out. One is the categories of KPIs typically involve a few things. One is how, think about our customer, right? It's almost like this, like, do we have an NPS score? Did our customer feel like they are successful? So think about almost the equivalent of NPS score is something really important, because they're like, our customer include product managers, include product executives, including our stakeholders. Do they know what we're going on? Do they feel we're building the right product? Are we driving business outcomes? So that's like a sort of one part of that. The second part of that really is that, is our product organization effective? Do we have goals? Are our goals measurable? Do we achieve the goals we set out to do? If you don't have a system, you don't have a process, you don't have a tool, it's over. Nobody ever look back saying, oh, we built this 5 things to drive conversion. Did we drive conversion? Do we continue to build on things to drive conversion versus some other goals? So having goals, measuring goals, and see how our team moving towards that goal is the ultimate success of the product ops, right? So customer satisfaction is experience, and driving business outcome is why we exist.
Nice. I've got a question here from Peter. How do you feel product ops relates to design ops ideally?
So in some ways, you think about the role of ops really is also almost like you create those APIs, right? Each of the function could be APIs as your code base expand. As your company gets bigger, that in the beginning, probably someone play product management, product ops, and design at the same time. And then you split, you have product and design, and then you probably have product ops kind of coordinate both. And then you get even bigger, then you have a design ops. So it's the more specialization. That's also the API from embedded in your code to actually as a standalone APIs you create. Like that's how we think about organization. It's the same as our code, right? Process and APIs and shared code is basically what it is. You run an organization.
Nice, makes sense. Got one here from Jason. Who do you think is the best person for product ops to report to within the company to ensure the good focus you've been talking about?
Right. Typically, product ops should be reporting to chief product officer, the person leading the product. It's similar to if you think about design ops, typically report up to the person leading the design. Sales ops typically report up into the person who runs the revenue, so that you can really align your customers and outcome in a very connected structure.
Nice. We've got one here from Heidi. How can product ops best support engineering teams when they do not ultimately report under the same vertical?
Yeah, there's a lot of conversation around product ops and engineering. In some companies, they have engineering ops and product ops in 2 different roles. Definitely very much connected, but slightly different focus on other aspects of efficiencies and productivity and so on in both of the functions. And a lot of companies, sometimes engineer ops are replaced by or having roles like a program management, more focused on delivery and execution side of things as well. If you don't have that, product ops by definition really extend their the API endpoint to the engineering organization. Sometimes you interact more with engineering managers because it's such a critical part of the building product. There's a lot of back and forth on how we build it. There are different ways to build a product. There's a timing constraint, all that stuff. So in short, it's a very, very strong relationship and interaction between product and engineering. So that should reflect on that part, especially when you align your strategy, your goals, and you have your initiatives, and you have to plan your roadmaps. That part has a huge interaction with engineering.
Nice. Good answer. Thank you. We've got one here from Kelly. These sentiments sound like product ops should focus more on heuristics rather than tactical or reactive. Is it fair to say that product ops is often balancing both?
Yeah, so it's kind of unfair to call product ops as just the ops. There's a strategic part of that as well. So in my title in the past, I used to have titles like a strategic operations, right? A product strategy and operations, because that's really what it is, right? There's a strategy and the goals. And there's a team execution. And not execution doesn't mean you just write tickets, right? A lot of them say, how do we convert vision into product roadmaps? There's a connection right there. And the product ops plays a big role in terms of orchestrating that process. So strategy and operations are both things. And product ops really the one connect these two sides of the product organization.
Nice, makes sense. So too many questions keep coming in. One here from Laurent. How would you balance the need to enable? Sorry, I'll start again, third time lucky. How would you balance the need to enable versus the demand of doing product growth and analytics?
So there are two things to think about it. One is a lot of times that product ops come in to fill in the gaps. There's no dedicated people. And when that becomes something, it's really, you define the role, understand the holes, and it's the product ops really, this is strategic function coming into play to say, hey, we really need a capability resource in this area to really support our organization, because this leg of the table is not there. The table is going to fall over. So you need to use that kind of say, I understanding there's a huge risk. I understanding the organizational resource and our capability gap. So you would go to your leaders to say, this is something we have to have. That's the strategic part of that. Operation part of that is in the beginning, you fill the gap, make sure things happening. We don't, like, you stop the bleed. But you have to take the strategic part of that instead of just falling to that, always filling the gap and then really missing all the other part.
Nice. You've got some fantastic analogies, Becky. The wonky day was brilliant. We've got one here from Richard. Oh, this is a nice question. Have you experienced pushback from other departments that are protective over the ownership of their own processes and tooling?
For sure. There are a lot of pushbacks from companies, especially if you have a new role. People don't understand what your role is, right? Think about it again, using the API analogy. So when you have engineering teams working together, or like your code work together, you want to have an API. There's always an interface. You have to design an interface, and the interface also evolve over time. It's the same thing. Think about it. They have their own components and services you call into. You can define an interface. Later on, if that part grows too big, and then you're gonna have multiple interfaces. So talk to them in that way to say, we want to build an interface to be more effective working with your team, because we do have to work together. That's a much easier conversation. And that happened a lot sometimes, the people coming and go, every company kind of evolve and change their org structures and so on. But whenever we approach that in terms of an interface and create a more interaction, but not a lot of many to many all over the place kind of interaction, that's the best. And then people also feel less, quote unquote, threatened if you take their job.
We've got one here from Pam. Org-wise, where would an agile coach be in the ecosystem in relation to product ops?
That is, agile coach is interesting role. The name of the coach implies it's not persistent quite often. So you tend to move from area to area. So I would think about product. It's almost like a vertical, right? So you have product engineering as a functional. Agile coach is kind of like the ones kind of almost connecting them in some ways to say how these teams work together. So agile coach could sometimes having a thinner layer across the product engineering and other areas to say how we work together. Sometimes they dive deeper because that area needs more help and the coaching, and they go in and out. So it really depends on needs. At companies, we had agile coaches, a separate service, and they come in based on which team needs the most and iteratively improve, right? It's never done. So this place needs the most of help, and then you go to another team when this area is better, and then you move another team and so on. So the agile coach is more of a kind of sliding across and then dive deep as the needs. It's the most at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. Got one from Janet. How would you recommend introducing change to product teams who have a huge range of tooling and different processes that could benefit from alignment of standards and tooling?
Right. So there's a term we call the agile rollout. So you find out your biggest pain point your organization has. Like, if I have all over the place tooling, it's no consistency, maybe I will solve the consistency first. And you don't want to change everyone because that's too painful. So you pick the biggest challenge, pain point, and least amount of work, so you drive quick wins. So quite often it's like you define a terminology, you have some taxonomy definition, you create some reporting and dashboarding, because that's the thing will expose the underlying issues. And you go from there to say, here are more problems, that you expand to changing their operations. There's more problems, and you changing their practice. So you can go deeper from visibility to some change of the operations and process, and to replace and change consolidate tooling. And then you also, so that's sort of like the depth of the agile rollout process change. You also have this agile process change by taking one or two teams who are most open, are most affected, and then you roll this out. So you do both vertically and horizontally expand. So this is like agile minimum viable process change and agile rollout of change. So you're not like a big bang change management. Nobody understand what's going on. It's never been tested, and big failure.
That makes sense. So we have a couple more minutes for, I was going to say, I've got a question, but Tim has saved you from my question, Becky. So, Timothy, you mentioned that being a good product ops manager means your customer is a product organization instead of just the product manager. Would you argue that the majority of your customers are still the product managers, as design ops can help designers and engineering ops can help engineers, etc.?
Sorry, the internet is a little bit strange for me. Okay, cool. So yes, depending on the maturity. So for example, when you join a company where the product manager are relatively new, they're not really have a consistent understanding of product management best practices, and maybe they're not even very experienced, the product managers, you kind of try to do the step one is to make sure they have the foundations and the basics of product management, especially what works in this company. Then as they become really good product manager, you have a different, not problem, but you have a different challenge, right? So you open the one door, you have 3 doors. And the different challenge is how do they work together? What do they own in terms of outcome? What do they own in terms of product? Who do they work with? How frequent they should interact? How often they go off to their own thing? How do they measure their outcome? So then you do have to work across them. Still product manager, you have to connect them to more cross-functional teams, executive teams, and stakeholders, and including designs and including engineering. So to your point, product manager is a primary customer. You work with them most frequently, but their customers, their stakeholders, it's just something you can't just do that later. It should be always a part of your kind of scope. It's just how much you're gonna focus on at different phase will evolve. Sometimes your leadership team they're not necessarily outcome focused. They don't know there's outcome focused product management. They think about features and commitments and customer escalations, right? So it is also your job. It's much harder to educate them, right? How you should think about customer needs versus customer escalation versus the customer needs, right? And the business goals versus sales needs, they're not exactly the same. There are different ways to achieve that. And then also think about it, how you drive a more the tech platform, tech needs is part of your roadmap. You shouldn't think that's the engineering thing. No, it is your foundation. So there's a lot of this kind of education and for product ops across all levels of your organization, because any one of them are missing, then have much bigger impact to your organization. So product manager, yes, but the other ones are super important and not forget. At least not in like maybe you don't do in V1, not your MVP, but your V1 which you have to add them to it.
Nice, brilliant, thank you, Becky. And that's the final audience question. We're pretty much at time. We've got about 30 seconds, but I wanted to ask you one final question, Becky. You kind of said at the beginning of the Q&A, someone asked about kind of the metrics to make sure that you are kind of on the path of good product ops, but are there any kind of telltale signs that product ops managers and organizations can look out for to make sure that they're not going down the bad product ops path?
I think the main part of that is that your success should be measured at when you're not present. So if you're not here, everything fall apart, then it's a bad path.
Makes sense. Yes, that's a great answer. Fantastic. Well, Becky, thank you so much. We are at time. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience and everyone else, fantastic questions and great engagement. Please do reach out to Becky on LinkedIn. The link is pinned in the blue box at the top, and make sure to check out Dragon Boat as well. The slides are available to grab in the handouts tab, so you've got a couple of seconds now while I wrap up to download those as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. But Becky, a huge thank you to you for joining us on the virtual stage and sharing your wisdom. It's been great to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. And thanks, everyone, for a great question. Really enjoyed it. Like Heather said, reach out to me on LinkedIn or check out dragonboat.io. Would love to hear from you.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. And thanks so much, Becky. See you next time.
Thank you. Next time. Ciao.
Ciao.